Hey, it's Ricky Riley of Traditions Training, and partnered with our friends at the International Society of Fire Service Instructors. We're here to bring you the Fire Engineering Humpday Hangout today. On the call today, whenever Bobby gets back from, oh, there he was walking in now. Bobby's walking back in, and obviously the main man from Fire Engineering, Chief Schultz, Tony Carroll, Sam Hiddle, and Steve Shaw from down in Florida. So we're gonna kind of just go over. Bobby, did you want to talk about anything FDIC related, or?
Sure. We're still looking at the alternatives that are available to us and talking with our good friends at Indianapolis Convention Center, obviously watching the progress of this event like everybody else, and taking our advice from our team calls that we get with FEMA and NHS, all the health agencies. And, like everybody else, we're kind of a couple of weeks ago, I said we were at the beginning of the beginning. Now I think we're at the beginning of the middle, and we're starting to see, how this is going to play out. So we want to be real careful about what we do with dates and make sure that it's viable, and what we want to do in that regard about people's scheduling. And we want to be really cognizant about doing it at a good time, and looking at the whole recovery operation and how that's going to play out. I mean, everything's just chaotic right now for everybody, every organization. So got a lot of really great people giving us a lot of really good input. We're talking with all our partners in the fire service, to make this decision. So we're all trying to work together, which is really, really cool. So there's a lot of really good stuff going on out there on that end. And so I don't have a hard answer for you yet about dates that we may use or not use. So it's still kind of fluid, and I think everybody understands that, right? I mean, it's always a moving target until we get a better feel for how this thing's going to play out. So we're hopefully optimistic. We're rational optimists, so we're weighing all the data and all the activity we're getting. In the meantime, we've got a ton of great stuff online. We've got solid lineup of webcasts almost every day on fire engineering, covering everything from soup to nuts. We've got a great infectious disease one coming up soon. I think that's on April 7th, infectious disease control, which every firefighter should watch. It's an amazing webcast, just in general terms, right? So, because there's a myriad of questions beyond just the Tyvek and the PPE and everything else. So that'll be coming up. So keep an eye on our webcast schedule. Obviously, if you subscribe to fireengineering.com, they'll be sending you invitations and all that good stuff. So got a ton of those things lined up for the future. So we're doing a really, really, really great job online with a lot of stuff going on. One of the things we didn't want to do is, try to overwhelm people. We know everybody's day is really full. Nobody's got 5 hours to sit in front of the computer. If you do, we know who you are. You're on Twitter. We've met you on Twitter. But for the real firefighters out there, they don't have that kind of time. So we're keeping it to maybe a webcast a day, and running it that way, just like we always would. And they're all free. So, and they're archived, so you can watch them at any time. That's the point. We don't want to put a burden on anybody to have to be anywhere. The way things are moving, everybody's got so much to do with family and everything else we do in our lives. So really grateful that y'all could join with us today and talk about what we're all doing during this time. Had a great conversation, just so you know, with Dan DeGrice, and all you guys know Dan from he's the mental health guru for the fire service. He's the guy who's been a professional therapist or counselor for 30 years. He was one before he became a firefighter in Chicago. Just retired as a battalion chief off the Chicago Fire Department after 30, and he corrected me, 30 years and 3 days. And the reason the guy did that was his jersey number in college football. So he had to have 33. So he did 30 years and 3 days. So he made that very clear to me. But we did a great podcast yesterday, and that'll be going up on the National Fireman's Journal podcast. The National Fireman's Journal is my podcast. That'll be going up this afternoon. So I encourage folks to take a look at that. But we're still cranking stuff out. Sammy's on the advisory board, and we're still working with everybody there to try to figure out what to do going forward. And Obviously, Larry and Ricky, and Tony, you review stuff for us, so we appreciate that. And Steve, we want to be talking to you pretty soon because we're going to be doing a whole bunch of stuff with the EMS world, obviously. So be bringing you in if you don't mind. We sure could use your expertise. So that's where we are in the world of fire engineering and FDIC and Firefighter Nation. So keep us on your channel and remember not just on Mondays when we have our Monday May Day, which is the most popular thing we do. And thanks for having me.
So Bobby, I apologize. I don't know every Humpday Hangout that you do, but I assume you've done plenty of those since the announcement, the FDIC announcement.
Yeah, we sure have. Every Wednesday we have a Humpday Hangout, right? You guys cover the training aspect. Ricky Lasky covers issues and concerns. We got Frank Rishi with politics and Dan DeGrice with mental health. So we've got it all. Every Wednesday is covered with a different host, and so we have been mentioning it and doing the updates. And it's a moving target. The thing I like about it is I've always been a big fan of uncertainty because I pretty much doubt every decision I've ever made and continue to. I've never been less sure of being unsure than I am right now, which is really comforting to me because I've always kind of enjoyed the fact that I just don't know what the hell's going on. And I embrace that. And anybody who thinks they're in control, good luck with that. If you thought you were going to be here 3 weeks ago, I want to see your lottery picks. But anyway, so yeah, we're doing okay, and a lot of great podcasts going up and stuff like that. A lot of great content being produced. So thanks.
I mean, because I didn't know if I knew there was a lot of backlash, in your favorite place, in Twitter world.
I hate cesspool. What a cesspool.
And social media about the canceling FDIC. And I didn't know, I assume that's a pretty big deal. I mean, for people that don't know that, certainly you don't take that one as a light decision by a far stretch. So
yeah, no, you go and disrupt, 44,000 people's lives. It's a big deal. Yeah. And we didn't take it lightly. And we truly respect the heritage and tradition of FDIC, what it stands for since 1928. And 1929 wasn't exactly a banner year for the country either. But the difference between the Great Depression and now was it wasn't going to kill you outright. Obviously, poverty can kill you, and I get all that. But, it wasn't like the threat today where you could share some kind of disease that's going to take somebody out. So we didn't take it lightly at all. And we're continuing not to take it lightly. We're going to make sure that it's absolutely safe and prudent to do the show. And if we're not absolutely sure, we're going to keep holding off, right? Because we don't want to set expectations again and then disrupt people's lives. So we're working on it, and we appreciate. I talk to Tony all the time. I talk to Steve, Danny. All you guys. You're all part of this decision. So, and it's a big decision. And so, just real quick, if I can rant about Twitter, what a jacked up, worthless, absolutely, I really don't care what quote you stole off of some long dead English writer without giving him attribution to make it look like it's your own, quite honestly. And any site that monitors and deletes people's accounts who are putting out actual factual information about cures is about the most despicable, bloody, freaking thing in the world. And that's exactly what Twitter is, run by a bunch of ideological jackasses and lonely people in their basements with nothing else to do but troll decent human beings who are just trying to get along. So God bless you, Twitter, you cesspool of worthless garbage.
Hey, do these fit on your ears too for this sort of stuff?
If anybody else feels differently about Twitter, God bless you. I post stories up there all the time, articles, but I'm tired of the virtue signaling. Oh, everybody, tweet that you love I don't know, cabbage. Oh, I'm a cabbage lover. Good for you. Get a life.
All righty.
All right. There's my
So,
there's my there's my Walt Kowalski message for the day.
I got it. I got it. I'm just, Sammy. If Sammy can stop texting memes, that would be a good thing too. So we kind of want to talk today. Since we're always talking about the training aspect of that, kind of what fire departments are doing now in this new world that we're dealing with here in the last couple months with training and how people are keeping their firefighters trained and obviously following all the rules set by the CDC and everybody else. So I guess I'm really, I wanted to start in the South first because, obviously when you close Disneyland, that's a big deal. So obviously they must have some pretty strict rules down there. So Stephen, did you want to start off with what's going on down your neck of the woods with training and how you're coping with all this and what your fire department's doing to keep your firefighters up to date and trained?
Yeah, yes, sir. I'd love to. And I think I mentioned this before. Before I became EMS chief in January, I spent 7 years in the training bureau, 5 of which was the battalion chief of training. So this year, right when this whole thing started to happen, somebody called me just in the last few weeks, and they called me and they said, "Man, I bet you wish you were back in training, don't you?" And I said, "You know what? I got to tell you, what better time for me to be in EMS than right now? I mean, all the things that I wanted to do, all the people that I wanted to meet, I've met. It was going to take me a quarter. In the first week, I've met everybody from the state, the DOH, EMS medical directors, It's been a good entrance into EMS, to say the least. So in regards to training, it's, I don't know, I guess it seems like the area around us, our call volume has actually gone down a little bit overall. For example, our fire department, you typically run 140, 150 calls a day between our 11 stations. And now it's about 110, 100 or so. So it's actually an interesting dichotomy because some of the folks are out there doing training because they have more time to do it. But there's also the folks that are out there, they're like, well, Steve, I can't exactly do joint training when we're that close because we're not allowed to be that close. So there's kind of like a double-edged sword right there. A lot of special ops trainings being done, from rope rescue to technical rescue. Our Marine team's in high action right now. Hazmat's out there training lots. A lot of our specialties are doing a lot of training. As for fire training, the new training chief over there, before I left, we had collaborated on getting a chunk of land out in the west side of our city, which in South Florida is unheard of. You can't get land in South Florida. I'm just making sure you all understand that. But we were able to get one chunk of land, and he's capitalizing on that right now, building a training facility out there. So I guess the benefits of a little bit lower call volume and us focusing on this from the EMS perspective, for let's say, is the fire training folk are really just hunkering down, getting that place dialed in right now between Connex boxes and burn cans and all that jazz. So they're really taking advantage of that lull, I guess you would call it, at least for right now, until, God forbid, if there is a surge or whatever they keep talking about. And so we're just taking this time to kind of reinforce some of that training that hasn't been done in a while. I mean, I don't know if last year, if I would have said, hey, grab your P100 mask, I don't know if they would have looked at me like, grab my what? What is that? But now you have a whole group of 400 plus people in Fort Lauderdale, for example, that know how to don, how to doff really, really well. They're training each other, keeping up on this, they're taking it seriously. So for right now, we're just kind of focusing on strengthening that infrastructure, getting it on either hands-on training, a video-based training, putting it in our platform right there. We're just kind of building the infrastructure right now, to be quite honest. And in the area, it seems to be a hit or miss as well. Like our folks down or our brothers down in Miami, they're always getting acquired structures, and we see them on Instagram and Facebook all the time going to town and in Miami-Dade, Liberty City folks. So you have a lot of people that are still doing a lot of training out there, which we're digging. But that's pretty much kind of what we're doing right now. We're all upset that a lot of classes have gotten canceled. I was supposed to be teaching twice this week, and I was really looking forward to it. And this is going to be my first time teaching at FDIC, obviously, and I'm a little bit bummed that it's canceled. But I'm not losing hope. I'm excited when it does come back to get out there. But internally, we're just kind of taking it one day at a time, building the infrastructure, making sure people take this seriously, and getting that training when we can. We're enjoying that lull, but we're not expecting it to last very long, I guess you could say. That's pretty much what we got going on in the South over here.
Are you doing something? Yeah. Are you doing something differently, like with video and audio, or to help those guys out, guys and gals in the field?
I've always, when I was training chief, I always used to preach that, I'm a fan of online learning only as a part of a robust hands-on training program. But right now, we're kind of in that point where, because it's that double-edged sword, where we're using that platform a little bit more to get out the information, because we need that just-in-time training. We need that, hey, here's how you put on your PPE, how you doff your PPE, and when to use it, and so on and so forth. How do you possibly reuse an N95 mask? So we're using our platform really religiously right now. In a perfect world, we'd love to be able to get out there and touch everybody, but that's just not the world we live in at this point. But yeah, we're capitalizing on that online platform, getting the videos out there. We try to develop our own content like a lot of departments do. We feel that our department, or our folk, kind of respond better to people that are from our own agency doing it, as opposed to just picking different places. But that being said, there's a lot of good content out there. I mean, even today, we were looking at fire engineering and Mike McAvoy, and he had a bunch of good videos, and there's a lot of solid content out there. So we're picking and choosing what the best content is, putting it out there, and doing our best to kind of spot check. I've been at the stations all in the mornings. Kind of my first step on the way to come into work is to verify that online training is actually taking root over at the stations. And thank God it has. We go by in the mornings and everybody's dialed in. It's impressive. That everybody's knowing what they're needing to wear. They're keeping track of their PPE. They got temperature checks in the morning and the evenings. It's nice when you get out there and you actually see that it's actually being done, because over here in the ivory tower, sometimes you don't get to see that. But when you go out there and see that it's being done, it's nice to see that even the online stuff that we typically would rather be hands-on is actually taking effect.
All right. Thank you. Sammy, you want to go with the Midwest? You sent me some stuff yesterday, so
yeah, we're
what you guys are doing.
We're like anyone. Most of our attention right now is just being focused on trying to predict what's going to happen. I look at this whole thing like the economy. What we do today, we're not going to see the results of. So the situation we're in is based on actions that we took weeks ago, and the situation we'll be in is determined by what we're doing today. So unfortunately, that's requiring most of our attention. When you talk about online training, one of the unique things that we're having to do right now is we started a recruit academy this week. Because of state orders and not being able to congregate in groups of 10 or more, we've had to come up with a quick plan of how to do online training for those recruits in the initial weeks, and then figure out how we're going to actually get them in situations where they can start pulling line and throwing ladders. Other than that, I'm a lieutenant. I got reassigned to the command staff for the COVID task force, but my lieutenant has been doing a great job of giving me updates on the training they're doing, and they're ultimately taking advantage of the slowdown in alarms. I think that's going to be a temporary thing personally, but right now it's kind of like a big winter storm coming in. Everybody shuts down, and we see a decrease in alarm volume, and we can take advantage of that. We can get stuff off the rigs that we normally couldn't, because we have to respond to an alarm every 5 minutes. Take advantage of that and get the ladders clean, dial in the rigs.
Are you done now, or?
Yeah, I think so. You know what? I will say this though. Not only, is there a lot of good stuff online, but go out and watch some of the classics too. The chief was right. You can't sit there and train for 8 hours on something. You're just not going to retain it, and guys won't tolerate it. Throw some of the good classics in there, like The Bronx is Burning, or Rescue Still Riding, Brothers in Battle. Build some of that pride up. If you're going to be isolated together, take advantage of that and build the team together.
To Sammy's point too, there's a lot of great, and I'm sure everybody else is going to chime in. I did a great interview the other day with Kevin Shane. He talked about the famous rope rescue that he was on with, Patty Brown, and then he talked about the 93 bombing. That's a great break from all this. You know what I mean? You get to hear a guy like that tell, and he goes into tremendous detail, and it's great. He's a great storyteller. So Sam, you're exactly right. Life still goes on. I mean, we're still catching jobs. We're still, we're still, doing the work besides, the COVID stuff. So appreciate you saying that.
Hey, can I make a shameless ploy for some of the new stuff that just came out from UL. We were on the coordinated attack panel, and one of the recent studies was put out about the coordinated attack in single family dwellings. It's tough. It's a tough read, right? It's science things, but there's some good videos that go with it. Again, that spark that interest and talk about something different than the COVID thing, and very timely, right? And it's also applicable across the country. It's not a big city thing. It's not a little city thing. It's an every city thing with residential single family dwelling fires. So if you got some time and you're looking for something different than COVID stuff, UL came out with a good study, and there's two more to accompany that: strip malls and multifamily dwellings.
I mean, Tony, why don't you go ahead and, obviously it seems like you're the epicenter of the whole metro area for what's going on with this, with the corona, the COVID, whatever. And what is DC doing to handle keeping up with training? I know you guys can't stop because every day you're going to a fire now, it seems like. So
now, I think that's what the tough part is that all of our emphasis has been placed on staying away from the COVID, right? Whether it is when we respond, but a lot of it's inside the firehouse. I think you guys, maybe you've seen, we're up to like 20 members who have been tested positive for the COVID-19, and a lot of that we can trace back to like the first member who got it, right? The first member who was tested positive, then 2 and 3, and maybe even 10 or 11. Those members can be traced back to them. So we have to do our due diligence to not come to work if we don't feel good, wash our hands, wear the PPE. I think that like our job is, it's not, we don't stop, we don't take a break, right? There isn't like a 0700 we all come in and start. We're going on runs at whenever you get there. 6 o'clock in the morning, you might go on a run, and 7 o'clock when we take over, you're still out on a run. So it doesn't stop. So we have to, again, just to do the due diligence to make sure we're doing everything that we can to not spread it. And then when we go on these runs, fortunately for us, and maybe you've heard, our communication center's taken a hit over the last few months, but they're doing their best, I think, to get the word out. They'll let you know, hey, PPE is suggested on this incident, or the information inside the CAD notes is kind of telling you, hey, there's symptoms are COVID stuff, so you prepare for that. Some of the information that came out, the idea that, hey, just send in as few people as possible to do your assessment. Do a size up from the information you're getting we talked about size up last month, right? So size up from the notes you're getting on the computer, size up from the questions that you can ask outside before you even cross the threshold. Ask some questions. A real good thing I think some of our guys are doing is they're doing that. They look at the notes on the computer and they'll call the number that the person called from, right? The caller's phone number that they left. They'll call them and say, hey, look, we need to meet you outside. We in the best interest of everybody, meet us outside, and we'll do our assessment out there. So that kind of information, how to take these ideas that were put out initially. This is how you can do it. Now you need to train on it and say, this is how we're going to do it. I have a real conscientious lieutenant in my firehouse that I see a lot of. He's doing all that stuff on every run they go on. And I think that's right. Again, that's kind of what we're telling our people is assume that everybody's got it. And then, work backwards. And as you need to, you can take away some PPE maybe if you do that. So we've got that. We've got, again, some other notes that kind of came out on the PPE. We have some handouts and stuff that came that kind of shows you how to don and how to doff your PPE. That's a pretty important one. And then, of course, how to decon and stuff your unit. Something else that we ramped up pretty quickly, which again is amazing in our city and our government, was the decon ability. we have at one of our warehouses, we can take our animals there, or even the fire truck or whoever, and we bring it in, we turn it over to these people. They give us a redress so we can go take a shower, and they'll wash our clothes for us. And then they run the unit through a decon, then they send you back out. So it's pretty good, pretty neat to see how it ramped up quick and how it's looking out for the best interests of our people.
Sorry about that, Tony. So what are some of the stuff that the department's prohibited the members from doing? You know, I mean, obviously, I know a lot of people down there, and you know, a lot of that training. So, I mean, have they prohibited some types of training and all that, or?
Yeah, our recruit training is stopped. The training academy is pretty much closed down. Maybe you saw recently where they ramped it. They've actually got a testing station at the academy for fire and police. So they'll drive in and they can test you quickly there. So that pretty much has eliminated anything else from going on. We had a recruit class that was in the process. It was a combination. We had about 20 firefighter paramedics, and then 8 or 9 firefighter EMTs. The firefighter paramedics, because they've already gone through our field training program, they sent them out, and they're actually being used as staffing on a medic unit. So they didn't finish all of their firefighting training. Like, they didn't get some firefighter survival stuff. They didn't get hazmat, but they did go through their paramedic internship. So they're actually out, and as of the last couple of days, they're actually part of staffing. So with they're being used as on a medic unit somewhere to help alleviate us, our numbers that are being quarantined and stuff. So they did that. The firefighter EMTs, I think, have just come out, and they're going to be used as supplemental, like a third person. They're not going to be, one of the considered as staffing, but they're out getting some work. But the training academy was shut down. That then also includes our EMS modular training that we do, and this is a tough time because NREMT and stuff recertifies in April, right? That time frame. So we know National Registry kind of gave everybody a extension. Our Department of Health is where we get our credential from. They're all on board. So that's kind of been again phased out and pushed back a little bit. But I'm sure we'll ramp that up. Once we can kind of clear the peak here. But that's where we are. Pretty much all of the training. We're still trying to get some stuff in the field. I had a recruit that took a probation test this past Sunday when we worked, and then also had some guys get out and do Sundays. We've kind of been doing a 45-foot ladder drill on Sundays to get out there and kind of get everybody doing it. So we tried to get that. It was nice to get outside. It was a beautiful day. But I think a lot of people are really shy about getting together and about getting outside, which is tough. So I mean, everything's kind of slowed down from a training standpoint. I think, again, with the numbers going up, a lot of us are just trying to keep our head above water.
All right. Sorry, I was just trying to. I mean, that's kind of see where everybody's at with training and what everybody's doing, and obviously, my God, the way you guys have to curtail stuff with as many members as you have, either quarantine or infected, man, that's crazy. So that would decimate a small fire department. Maybe it'd be no good. So let's go to Chief Schultz, the policy man in Anne Arundel County.
Yeah, everybody's said about everything and covered a lot of good stuff. I would, I think just to put a little bit of spin on it, and then to capitalize on some things that everybody else said. And I liked, certainly what Chief Halton talked about, uncertainty. And that you don't get much of a conversation with me without some type of selfless plug, as Tony Carroll would say, about the challenge of company officers and incident commanders having to work in uncertainty and complexity. And we're in that time now. But there's really only one way to get good at working in uncertainty and complexity, or as Chief Halton said, learning to be comfortable while being uncomfortable, and that's to get after it and do it. So I think we can sit back and focus on COVID and make that the only thing that we do, or we can work in complexity, get used to dealing with multiple things. Most departments are all hazards, means we're all risks. We don't get to pick and choose what risk we expose ourselves to, whether it's an active shooter, a pandemic, or a basement fire. So this is really no real reason to get away from training. And in fact, I'd make the argument that we should continue to do more training. You got to be smart about it. You got to watch the groups. Try to be outside when you can be outside. If distancing is a challenge, throw a surgical mask on, or even better, wear your SCBA in everything that you do. You're adding some complexity to skill set. You're adding a little bit of stress inoculation in all that you do. So, look, we don't need reasons to find not to train and not to drill. We can do it. We're an incredible group of people in the fire service. We can manage this pretty well. Locally, I was out yesterday. We have an acquired structure in one of the battalions where they're going through every day. That we've done about 200 evolutions in a 45 by 40 building over the last 3 or 4 weeks, and we just do it in smaller groups, but we still manage to get it done. I was down at the academy over the weekend, and there were companies out there doing ladder drills. There's certainly some online stuff like everybody has, but there's also now's a perfect time. Firefighter close calls just put out. They just redistributed the after action report, the line of duty death report of the Watts Street fire in 1994 that killed Jimmy Young, Chris Seidenberg, and John Drenning. So capitalizing on those anniversary dates to open up a report, sit around the table while maintaining good distance, and read the lessons learned. There's a million things we can do. Don't come up with excuses for why not. And again, the only way to get good at working in complexity and uncertainty is to do it and engage in all facets of what we're doing.
Yeah, so I mean, I did you see the text message I sent you, Larry? By the way,
I avoid reading text messages because
with Sammy Hiddle, I understand.
Hiddle has a poker face.
While Hiddle's online with you, yeah, you got to be careful what you open up.
Take one look at him, and I'm done.
So a couple of things that popped in my head when you all were talking. There's some great training information online at all the SCBA manufacturers' websites, every one of them, on deconning face pieces and regulators and the rest of their equipment. There's a great training piece right there. You can have your folks watch it, go to the site, go out, do their own SCBA. On a lot of jobs, a mild job back in the day, it was the engineer, the chauffeur, the driver, whatever you call him. That was his or her gig, was to do all that, or we did it, Wednesday or something. Now it's like after every usage, right? So that's an interesting training gig. One of the things that came up in I work with a couple of local jobs here, and career and volunteer in combination. And one of the conversations we had today came from Atlanta, of all places, where the Atlanta guys, in its training opportunity, looking at their response protocols, they pulled all of their structural assets off of the, no disrespect, but off of the cold symptom-like or your COVID symptom-like calls, so that, to like Tony's point, or maybe it was Sam's point, they're really looking at who they're sending, right? They're selecting a limited, so if there is an exposure probability or possibility, they're limiting that for our folks. If they need the additional manpower, obviously the crews are there, but they're not, it used to be, sending everybody, right? So they're really looking at the response protocol. And what dawned on all of us, the Atlanta folks and my team out here, was, wow, that makes good sense year round. It gave us a chance to reevaluate a lot of what we were, well, that's the way we have always done it kind of attitude that we'd had with, our dispatch protocols. The other thing that happened to us, which I just wanted to share to kind of dovetail on what Tony mentioned, was in our emergency management groups, one of our emergency management groups, we had like 5 people now who've tested positive. And what we found was that the initial person who got sick never knew they were sick, absolutely never knew it, had like 0 symptoms. And when they told him he was like the first person, he was like shocked, because he said, he doesn't remember having a fever, doesn't remember having a cough, doesn't remember anything. And he was the initial sick person who then got 4 other people sick, and one of whom is like really sick. So it's a weird deal, you know what I mean? And that's something to learn about too. Infectious disease and toxicity and communicability is really, go back to what Larry just said, it's wickedly, what's called wickedly complex, because something that is going to take down Larry might not bother Sam at all. It might not bother Steve at all, but it'll flatten me, Larry, and Ricky, so, or make me and Ricky sick, but take out Larry. So it's really fascinating. But you know what I mean? It's why our high-end chemo treatments now are actually made for you, right? Like if you get sick today and you go in, your medicine is really, they look at your genome, they look at everything about you, and you get medicine that's pretty much made for you, which is fascinating. And obviously we're not going to get to that point on the COVID issue, but there's some really promising thing coming out. Like the FDA just released the thing on the hydroxyquinine or whatever it is, and so folks are taking it prophylactically. Hopefully that'll be coming soon to not just us. And this is the other thing I don't know. I stumbled across this the other day. You want to take a training opportunity? Seriously, this is an opportunity for us. Seriously, go down to your local grocery store. Seriously, and show them how to don and doff their masks correctly. Show them how to take their gloves off and dispose of them correctly. Because you can contaminate yourself taking those dopey gloves off. You can contaminate yourself putting your mask on and off incorrectly. So there's an opportunity for us to go out and train the people we actually work for, who right now, quite frankly, are taking almost a bigger risk than we are, because everybody's going in and out of those grocery stores and those Walmarts and those Home Depots, and they ain't getting calls from 911 saying they think they're sick, and they may not even know they're sick. So here's a chance for us to do, some good training with really good people who are doing really good stuff for our communities right now, who are critically necessary. That we can't close down the grocery stores, we can't close down the hardware stores and the fuel stations, but it's a chance for us to go out and say, hey, can we get some of your crew here? We want to show you how to don and doff. We want to show you some basic stuff you could do to keep yourselves a little safer. I don't know. It's a chance not to put us first, put the people we work for first. There's a concept.
All right. So I had one of the things I had hoped that, I probably didn't phrase the question right, as I usually don't, as Larry would tell me some days. But what are we doing? So I work with a company in Fort Washington, Pennsylvania, with some apparatus stuff, and I watched. They sent me a link to they're doing their monthly training session on the same platform that we're doing our platform on today, that the Zoom technology. I haven't. Sammy had tried to get me to learn about Zoom before Zoom became the in thing, and of course I didn't do it. So, but I noticed on the Zoom that they were using the other night in Fort Washington was that had all the people that were attending. The screenshot that I saw had, like, I want to say 18 people were tuned into this online, and they were doing a PowerPoint presentation on dispatch terms and everything like that. So one of those things that we can't have all these people grouping at a volunteer firehouse for their meeting night, is that they just took it to the next level. Said, hey, we're not going to lose our people, we're not going to lose our training hours, we're going to use this content, Zoom or whatever platform that you want to use to be sure to make sure to keep their members engaged and also keep the training going on. So, I mean, I guess that's what, I guess that was one of the questions I wanted to ask, is what other people were doing. I mean, I just brushed up on my iMovie skills here in the last couple of days to try to do something for the operational performance of our department to, try to push out some new information. And or is anybody doing anything like that to limit the amount of people we're getting together, or somebody raise a hand, or no?
Like I said, we're trying to do that with our academy. But as far as department wide, we're really relying on the company officers to go out and find that information that they need to drill their people on, just because we're so limited on resources, just trying to get caught up to the whole COVID thing. But we're definitely taking advantage of that with the Recruit Academy, because we've still got to bring new members in. And, there's going to be future challenges to that, where it's going to be up to the houses that they get assigned to. They're not getting the reps that they need in the academy that they usually get. So we're going to have to make adjustments down the line, where the company officers are going to have to put in extra effort when they get a rookie to make sure that they can actually perform the skills. Because right now, when we do that online based training, we're doing the what, when, and why, but we're going to have to really drive home the how down the road.
To your point, Ricky, about platforms too, to dovetail with Sam a little bit, the Zoom platform is inside of your, if you belong to Microsoft Teams, there's a Zoom, but it's like your basic Zoom, right? And if you do something on there, it usually has about a 40-minute duration, unless they let you go a little long. And right now they're being really gracious about that. But then there's like a Zoom that you can buy for organizations and corporations that has a few more bells and whistles, but that costs a little more money. So there's a free Zoom that everybody can use, and then there's a Zoom that you pay a little more for, and that's where you can put your PowerPoints and things like that inside of, Ricky. And then Blue Jeans is another good platform that I like. I use it a lot. Very, very easy to manipulate and build stuff on. And there's a couple of them out there. Zoom gained in popularity, obviously, because Microsoft put it inside of Teams, and that just exploded it out to everybody. But there's some other lesser known ones that are excellent as well.
Yeah, and when we talk about this online platform, and I guess when I was talking to Sam the other day going home, obviously I live in the area that Chief Schultz protects every day, and they were probably and I listen to the radio for 3 or 4 jurisdictions when I'm sitting in my office, and they were kind of one of the first ones I heard actually go out and do some training. So they mark themselves out of service to do a drafting drill, which God knows everybody needs to do that. But I mean, it's just one of those things that, once again, I think Chief Schultz, brought it into play, is that, hey, this is the best time to get that training, get the stuff done. And, obviously limit it to, a 3 or 4 person engine company, and go out and do that drill. You don't have to bring the whole battalion down, or 2 or 3 companies, but it certainly is, rather than hoarding ourselves in our little rooms and not letting anybody in the firehouses and keeping the doors closed, is, going out, getting the fresh air and getting those odd drills done with 3 or 4 people. And don't be, obviously we need to be scared and not be scared, but not be scared of the, the COVID and jobs. We still have to do that each and every day.
I think it's tough. I mean, one thing that we've seen in DC is the runs have gone down. I mean, we were topping 600 runs a day, and now we're consistently below 500. Again, I know that's in some places it might not be a big deal, but it's a big deal. And you would think that we could take advantage of the time, but I think that a lot of people are just scared to get out there. As a battalion chief, I'm so prompting guys, get out. I want the engine companies to get out. And I took this from Terrestrial Cody from out west, right? He does a daily stretch. I want the engines to get out and do a daily stretch. The trucks can get out and do a daily stretch too, right? Stretch a ladder somewhere. But that's where it takes that commitment of that company officer to get that. Unfortunately, I think that some of that message is, look, slow it down, because of the chance to get to meet someone who's got COVID. So we're really scared. We're running scared right now, and hopefully, if we talk about some of these other platforms and stuff, I can pump up to my battalion at least. Look, guys, we're still going to fires. We're still going to all these other emergencies. Yes, COVID, we have to take these necessary precautions and steps, but we have to also be ready for the every other thing we might respond to. Again, may not be a formal training event, but we got to do something. And I think that's where the message has to get is, don't forget, we're still here going to all these other things too. I think Chief Schultz says we're all hazards, and we can't pick the ones we go to, but we do know that we're going to get called for these. So let's practice some of that stuff too. Don't forget, we still might go to these.
Sam, if you don't mind me just jumping in first, I think the word we want to use is vigilant rather than scared.
Yeah, that's probably a better word.
Scared's not really a great word, but because
you're right. I
because
apologize.
because we used it, I thought I did this guy. I showed you guys this earlier. I stole a little stick. I've been reconnecting with my family and getting to know these people. It's been kind of an interesting experience. Finding out things about your wife and your children that you really didn't know. So really lovely people. Being here with them confined into a tiny little space. It's been working out real well for me, honey. It's been really good. So, but just a little gag there. I stole off a guy named Tyrus, came up with that the other day, so I was hysterical. But yeah, I don't think anybody's scared or frightened. Not in our business. People are scared and frightened. In our business, our level of awareness is just a little higher right now. It's our caution meters are raised a bit, and that's a good thing. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just like it's like every Thursday night. For some reason, Thursday nights I used to always catch a good job. So I'd come in on a Thursday night, and I'm always like waiting for it, which I enjoyed. And then it would hit, and you were like, yeah, you know what I mean? You were like, you felt like Nostradamus. You knew it was coming, right? So I think that we're not scared. We're a little more aware than we normally would be. We're vigilant, and we're being prudent and cautious. But our customers are scared, and that's why I think that. And again, I'll reiterate, the chance to go out to the grocery stores and Home Depots and share a little bit of your calm and reassuring manner with the folks that work there, and let them know that there's ways to protect themselves and that you're there to help them. And if they, maybe the manager might want you to come in on the next shift or something to show the folks how to do it as a group. Probably not a bad idea, and to get to know those folks a little better. So, when those places have events, fires or something, it's nice to have a good relationship with the local Home Depot or Walmart before you're stretching lines to their standpipes and trying to figure out where the bedding section is or whatever. So, just a thought.
All right. So look, a couple of our instructors from Traditions couldn't call in today. Dan's apparently doing something else for Bobby, and that nobody. It's top secret. No, but he's doing something about the huge fire they had in Fairfax. But Doug Mitchell is obviously in the epicenter of this crisis, and he could not be on. He sent me a couple texts, and he sent me a pretty long text. He had to go check on a couple members today from his company. So he sent me this text, and this is his view from inside the New York City Fire Department, which has been getting hammered each and every day. Chief Schultz and I talked about it briefly the other day. We can't imagine the volume of runs that they're doing. But he says, when we're talking about that training is to ensure that we reduce members' interactions and being a company officer and enforce social distancing. Don't tolerate people, getting in groups because we're all comfortable together. If you think you have enough PPE on hand, in parentheses, you don't. He said, try to bolster your supplies, not hoard, but bolster your supplies. Attempt to have a facility where your members can be tested quickly so as not to contaminate others. I don't know how that's working out for everybody, but look to establish safe areas, hotels, college dorms, etc., where sick members can be quarantined. I know Chief Schultz and I talked about that the other day, what his department was doing. Look out for each other and protect your families at home. That's the most important thing. And then wash your damn hands and don't touch your face. That was Doug's message from the day. So him being at the center of this crisis, pretty much. So, but other than that, I mean, do we want to go around one more time? I know we're getting close on time here.
I think Sammy 50 Cent Hiddle had something on his mind. I saw him when
I'm sorry, he's not on my screen thing. Did he like take his hat off like 4 or 5 times or something? Or
No, hey,
you know they have a brim, you know, right? They go to
Yeah,
the front. That's what they're designed for.
keeps the rain
Oh,
off
I
your
thought
neck.
it was a do-rag. It looked like a do-rag.
My favorite is the guy in NASCAR with his hat on backwards going like this. Um, no, what I was going to say is, and kind of play off what Chief Carroll was saying. Right now, we're in the blizzard. The storm that's coming is going to be reduced resources. All of our departments are probably going to see a financial impact from this long term, which could mean less members, less equipment. And so it is an opportunity while the runs are down a little bit. And that's a temporary thing. It's got a shelf life. But while they're down a little bit, dial in your equipment. Take care of it, because you're probably not going to get as much new equipment as you've been afforded in the last couple years. And prepare for those fires that are coming when we see a downturn in the economy. By winter, when people start opening up their stoves for heat because they don't have the money, I truly believe we're going to see an increase in fires. And we had a 9-year-old girl and a woman shot in a house the other day, and 9 hours later, a guy was just shot on the street. So the violence is also going to increase as people become more agitated in society.
Always an
I got you, Sam.
inspirational moment from Sam Hiddle.
Hey, Sam, you can cut your rescue truck into like 4 pieces and just keep reusing it as big as it is. It takes Sam a day and a half to walk from one end to the other of it. So
Oh, it's beautiful though. It's that thing turns on a dime. It's amazing.
Steve,
You know,
Mr. Shaw from, I'm sorry.
I just gotta dovetail on Sam just for a second, if you don't mind, Sam. You know, the great American philosopher Yogi Berra once said, "It's hard to predict, especially the future." So, you know, I think we should plan for the worst and hope for the best. And although I agree with you, obviously, folks being confined together, for some folks, it's a really bad thing, and it can get worse. But there's also an incredible American spirit. James Hornfisher, when he was commenting on how the Japanese regarded the Americans during World War II, he said they underestimated the courage and resolve of America when her back is against the wall. And America is just the American people. And I really think that, you know, none of us have ever seen anything like this before. And some people are drawing parallels to World War II, and God bless them for it. But I think it's even on a different scope than that, right? Because if you were in America back during World War II, the odds of you getting taken out were pretty nil. But if you were deployed, obviously, as a soldier, it was radically different. In this event, we're all deployed. And so, although I think those things are probable, and obviously we need to prepare for it, there's always the courage and resolve of America when her back's against the wall. And I would never bet against America. And I think we may see a downturn for a little while. And I think that what happens after that may just be amazing, because it's not 1929 and it's not 1918. It's 2020. And so it'll be very interesting to see, right? As Larry said earlier, we're living in a dynamically complex world. So, you know, as fast as it can crumble, it can restore, which is really interesting in resiliency studies. If you talk to the people who do resiliency studies, that the fragility of it increases, but the restorative qualities of it also increase. So it'll be interesting to watch. And my bet is on the American people.
So,
Sorry about that.
Chief,
Stephen, did you want to go ahead?
it just, and kind of tangent off what you were saying, Chief Alton, and kind of it reminded me of something. Somebody had said to me somewhat recently, never let a catastrophe go to waste, or never let a good catastrophe go unexploited. I know it's kind of a cold statement, but I think that the positive take on that viewpoint is, like you were saying, just the example of going into a grocery store, making that connection. You know, we're you guys have probably been in the same boat as I am right now with this, but we're having these random people that we've made connections with over the years reach out to us and say, hey, I got 5,000 N95 masks. Are you guys interested? Like, yeah. So a lot of those relationships that we have built over time are starting to bear fruit now. So as much as this is a true pandemic as it is right now, there's the opportunity to really, I don't want to use the word exploit, it's not the right word, but there's an opportunity to really kind of get out there, show the positive face of the American Fire Service in multiple ways. You just mentioned one. I also like, and this is the last thing I'll say, I love that this is pushing things like the telemedicine, the WebExes, the Zooms. As much as I'm not a fan of all online training, there are some advantages. And like some of you guys were saying before, like a presentation where we're doing it kind of like this, where we're talking, we're interacting. This is good training. We may not be touching each other or throwing ladders or whatever, or pulling hose, but you know what? As opposed to watching a video and actually getting your hands on something, that this ability, what we're doing right now, I got to tell you, it's much better than just watching a static video. So I'm a big fan of things like the WebExes and the Zooms and the Microsoft Teams becoming really popular right now, because it's going to give us one more tool in our toolbox from the training perspective. I still think hands-on training is the key, but it's putting this in the limelight to where you're finding the advantages and the best ways to use these kind of things. So but I just wanted to kind of say that you reminded me of something. There are some hidden gifts with this kind of situation happening right now.
So we lost Ricky. So Larry or Tony, you want to jump in? Sammy? Can you guys hear me? Yeah, you can. Larry,
Yeah,
you're still on mute, Larry.
Go ahead, Larry. Chief, please.
Tony, I think Tony, he was pointing to you, Tony. Go ahead, boss.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's a really good point, and maybe right what we'll gain out of this is the versatility to find ways to get to our people. I hope that that's what we gain. I mean, I'll hold that. I like the vigilant. We want to be vigilant and make sure that everybody is safe, including the people we serve, especially, and then our people inside. That was good. I mean, maybe we can make some good contacts with other people who are coming to us looking for answers or ideas. So Steve, that's good. Chief Halton, we want to be vigilant to continue to because we're not going away, right? We're gonna have to survive this and continue return to the great service that we did, or continue the great service that we're providing.
Chief Schultz?
No, thanks everybody. It was it's certainly a good break from COVID discussions, which have been nonstop. So I appreciate the opportunity to jump on and hang out with some great people for an hour and think about anything but COVID. So,
Amen. Amen. Sam?
Nothing.
Oh, stop it.
No.
The day you have nothing, I'll be dead.
I'm going back to work.
Oh, stop it. You're killing me. And you put it on wrong. After all that, you're killing me. You're killing me.
There we go.
You're killing me. Well, hey, thank you to everybody for getting on with us. We apologize. Ricky had to run to another call, but, to Sam's point, prepare for the worst, hope for the best. Chief Schultz, nailed it. Take a break from time to time from this. Don't let it eat you alive. And Chief Shaw, yeah, make those new relationships. The quote that Rahm Emanuel has, it was never let a crisis go to waste. And he stole it from a book by a lady who wrote about, I can't remember the name of the title of the book. I'll send it to you later, but it's a great book about the opportunities that arise in crisis. And the fundamental premise of her book was that most of the great things that have happened in the world have been the result of a struggle, a large or small struggle. And on the individual level, none of us ever got stronger from the easy road. We always get stronger from the rough road. And this is a rough road. And I'm not discounting the fact that, people can die and more people will. That is absolutely horrible. But it's things like this that make us better and hopefully much better. And I'm looking forward to that. And I think that I have nothing but the utmost faith in the American people and the American Fire Service. Nothing but the utmost faith. And I couldn't be prouder to be part of any group at any point in time than the American Fire Service right now and the example they're setting. So, and especially this group of people dedicated to training, because there is nothing more important than training. Nothing. And if you believe otherwise, I got no use for you, because you train, you train, you train, you train, you train, you train, and then you train some more. And that's the, it's the old, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, 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 right? It's the old New York City joke. So I thank you again. I hope you're all well. I love you guys. Thank you to Fire Engineering for letting us have this time. And we'll see you all down the road.
Take care.
Take care, guys.